we want you all listening to be great firefighters, but I want you to be great individuals first. But great husbands, great wives, great brothers, sisters. Those are God-given titles. The title of firefighter can be taken from you.
Right.
And will be when you retire.
Yeah.
It's not going to say great firefighter on your tombstone.
Command, Engine 10, first line attack, making entry.
All right. Well, Andy, we appreciate you coming in. We happened to catch you while you were kind of passing through, which, you know, might be God's plan for us a little bit here, that it just happened to work out and we're able to catch you in your travels, because I know that you make your way around the U.S. quite a bit, all over the place. So, so you have founded an organization called Insight Fire Training that I think a lot of people are probably really familiar with. I hope, you know, at this point, and if they're not familiar with it, I would highly recommend that anybody watching look into you guys, because at my full-time department, we've had you guys come out, do some training with us, and let me tell you, it was quality, data-driven, fact-based information, and I love that stuff. We were having a conversation before this that, you know, we were talking about how, you know, opinions can lead you down a rabbit hole, but facts are facts, and if you can talk about the facts and the data, well, now we're having a conversation about reality. Well, I think that's key. So I appreciate what you and your guys are doing. They're doing great work, and they've helped us out quite a bit. So
Well, we wouldn't be able to do that if you hadn't given us the opportunity.
Right
You
on.
know, Christ says, "I am the door," but you got to walk through it, right? So people give us an opportunity. We're grateful for that opportunity. And like we said, sometimes may not be agreeable to certain information, but we do it in a way that is experientially relevant, and we share it in a way that doesn't condescend. It's at their level, and we share it to the person. We build the program to the people, and we make sure that they understand it and can use it immediately, right?
Yeah.
You know, what good is something if you can't use it? I call it edutainment. It was educational, it was entertaining, and I wasted 8 hours with you or longer. I want to get these people,
brother.
Firefighters are in a profession where they're serving everyone, but they're also taking their life in their own hands and someone else's. And it's our moral responsibility, in my opinion, to give them data-driven information. I like data-driven because Rob Ramirez says I got to make sure I give him that. But data-driven information that helps them make decisions better, right?
Yes.
And if we can do that, and then they, as my dad's motto says, we test, we demonstrate, you decide, and they can decide how to use that based on the circumstances and factors in front of them, along with their staffing and all the variables on that dynamic fireground that could occur, then we've better prepared them. It's not minimum standard textbook information. We're giving them thousands of pages of information that they may or may not read, but in a digestible format that relates exactly to a hands-on concept, like making entry, size up, you know, scanning before I go in to do a search, searching, do's and don'ts with this device, fire attack, rapid intervention, disorientation, all the things that matter to them, ventilation, all of those things. They do those. We're just giving them a force multiplier and showing them how to properly use it and interpret that data in a way they can do it quickly and they can do it fast, and hopefully they can put the camera down and realize it's not something they stare at.
Yeah.
It's not like our cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, we need to have less screen time and more action time, but that short investment that we preach can be a force multiplier.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're trying to get them to do, is understand that data and use it quickly so they can benefit, as Alan Brunacini said, Mrs. Smith, right? And also their coworkers, their brothers and sisters on the fire truck, because that's part of that, and then get home to their families.
Yeah. Amen. Amen, brother. And I really like that what you were saying about how your organization kind of drives the data and the information towards the organization there, and you know, probably everything from culture to guidelines that you have to kind of tiptoe through a little bit, and you customize that quite a bit. You did it really well. You guys do it really well, and it's really beneficial because every organization is going to apply that data and apply those techniques a little bit differently, very similarly probably, but a little bit differently, and to teach to the organization, you know, like in fire service instruction, they say teach to your audience.
Yes.
And you guys really do a good job of doing that. Again, like you said, sometimes it's entertainment classes that are out there, and maybe there's a good purpose for that too.
There's definitely good purpose of motivational classes. Nothing wrong with that. But motivation only lasts so long.
Exactly.
Zig Ziglar says motivation is like bathing. We recommend you do it daily, right? So, that's where I get concerned with a lot of inspiration without application is nothing more than, watching a good movie and getting fired up and then you do nothing about it. Hearing a good sermon and do nothing about it, right? So one of the things I'm very concerned about is making sure that we share this in a way that they understand. And if you want to look up a great book a lot of us have resources we pull. And you probably have a policy book, you probably have a tactical book, and you don't read it all at once. But Chuck Swindoll's book called Saying It Well has been one of the best books I read about teaching.
Okay.
I've learned more about teaching in the fire service through ministry than I did for instructional methodology through collegiate.
Me too.
And that's faith-based, and then some very important concepts that people like Chuck Swindoll shared with me. And in the opening page of his book, this is how he hooked me. Because I'll read a book, but I'll be honest with you, sometimes I won't read the whole book. I'll read the parts I like a buffet. And his book, I go back and reread it. And he says in the opening pages, only after 50 years of being married and 50 years of being a pastor, do I feel comfortable about writing a book on communication. And I'm like standing in the bookstore, I'm like, yeah, you got me.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm reading now.
And he breaks it down like what you just said. Who are you talking to? Who's talking before you? Who's talking after you? How long do you have? Don't be disrespectful and go over your time. Always be early. Some stuff he learned in the Marines and being a pastor and being married. He shares all those faith-based traditional value concepts. And the thing that really hit home with me that we do every time we pull up in a fire is he sizes up his audience. And I took some concepts from him. And I learned this in marriage ministry. The two things that will cause problems in life is undefined or unrealistic expectations. So when I come in, I say, guys, I'm so thankful we're here, thankful for the opportunity. However, I got all these things I want to share with you, but it's not going to do any good if I don't know what your expectations are. So I'll literally spend about 20 minutes with them saying, tell me your name, tell me the camera you use, and tell me one thing you want to learn, just one. And then when we're going through the program, I will point at that person and say, you wanted to learn this. Does this hit this mark? Do you understand this? Does this help you? Because then I am sharing that and I remembered them that, it's hitting home with them. And then when we go and do the concepts and show it to them, say, remember this? This is what I was trying to show you in the class. Now we're showing you out here in the live fire environment. Does this make sense? We'll stop, do hot washes and ask, question answer period. We are making the content relatable and customized to the person. Everybody starts with the program. Jesus started with a person.
Amen.
Right? So start with the person and work your way up. And if you study leadership, there's you, one-on-one, team, and organization. Lead Like Jesus book is a great one. Phil Hodges and Ken Blanchard wrote it. And he talks about that, and that was his model. So start with me and you, or me. I got to control me first, and then me and you, and then we build the team. Then we go up the organization. Everybody tries to go to the fire chief and work their way down. That's extremely difficult and very frustrating to do that. But if you change your company level or the training academy or yourself and you start setting the example, it's the Aaron Fields thing about water bowls from the bottom. Start with what you can control and work out, right? I heard the best line when I was just at Dallas Fire Department by a battalion chief there. I said, don't wait on a program to get this started. And he pointed on, he said, you are the program. I was like, that is awesome. He said, you are the program.
That is true.
And Dina Ollie says she wants to eliminate peer support for one reason. She wants everybody to be on the team. So we don't need a peer support team.
That's a good point.
Because if everybody's trained, we don't need a program. You are the program.
Right.
And I just about fell out of my chair when he said it. I was like, let me write that down.
That's a good point.
And
that's a very good point.
But that's what we want. We want this to be relatable, and we want each person to be a resource. And if we invest in that and follow up with them, just like I said, in that model, you can plant acorn seeds now. And hopefully they're sitting under shade trees by the time me and you are done doing this, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that's what it's all about, is planting those seeds, letting them grow. The Harris County area in Texas where we are is kind of a fledgling developing area for the most part. It's, we're maturing very rapidly. A lot of people have gone through promotion very quickly, and some of those people haven't felt 100% comfortable So my question to you is, how do you feel about that? And would you have any pointers or suggestions for some of those people?
Are you meaning clarifying that some of these people are young and don't have the background or don't feel comfortable because they don't have the experience? Can you get a
So
little bit more before I open my
yeah.
mouth, stick my foot in?
No worries, no worries. Yeah, so we've got there's kind of a, we talked about culture a little bit before here, and there is a bit of culture in our area right now that says basically, you don't want to be forced to a promotion, and I do agree with that. I don't think that you want to make somebody promote if they are truly just not comfortable with it. But when I think back on my history, and I went from a rookie to a firefighter, EO, so on and so forth over the years ago, and I'll be honest with you, every single time that I promoted, I did not feel 100% confident. You know what I mean? Does
I see where you're
anybody?
going. Yeah.
Does anybody
No,
feel
no,
confident?
I was about to share some very painful information about myself about that too. So let me give you my backstory real quick. I was trying to get promoted when I was on the fire department, and my wife and I had been married just a little bit, and I was taking the driver's test, which is called engineers for my department at the time. And to make driver in my department is extremely competitive. It's more competitive than captain or battalion chief because you had relevant factor points. Everybody wanted to be a driver. It's one of the best jobs you can get. You can actually make more money doing overtime shifts and do special assignments and all that. It's a great job. I was making a 90 and 93 overall and wasn't even making the top 10. And after doing that for 4 years, my wife says, you know, why don't you go ahead and take the captain's test? It's only 2 more books you got to study.
Yeah.
Well, what could go wrong? So I take this test and I make an 80 on it, and I'm 8 out of 10 on the list and get promoted.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm 30 years old at this point. 30 years old, and I'm going from an engine company that I spent 8 years on, and the first thing they put me on is ladder 1B shift uptown, running high-rise fire alarms, elevator entrapments, and stuff I've never had to deal with. I never even rode a ladder company. I grew up in a volunteer fire department. The only time I seen a ladder truck, we had one ladder truck. It was a 1948 Seagrave long nose. Okay.
Nice.
My experience with ladders was basically whatever Charlotte gave me. So if you want to talk about not being comfortable, the reason I ended up being involved in behavioral health is I came to work and faked it till I made it, and was extremely uncomfortable, extremely ill equipped, not prepared, did not do my own homework, did not prepare myself, because your department's only going to give you the minimum training. You got to understand that.
Yeah,
They're not
most
going to give
likely.
you what you need or to make you prepared. That's on you.
Yeah.
Kurt Isaacson says, you see this essentials book? This is what you study to get the job.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I was not ready. And then I came home and I started feeling the experiences of anxiety, depression, anger outburst. Did that for 3 years. I was a relief captain for 3 years, 8 months. My daughter is barely 1 year old. I came home after a rough night and she spilled her Cheerios on the floor, and I lost it on her. And my wife said, come here. She said, I'm not telling you got to quit, but you said this is the greatest job in the world, but you're coming home and you're not acting like it, and you need to fix it.
Yeah.
or
I've
I
been there
will."
before too, brother.
So when you talk about not being comfortable, my epiphany was how many other people were in my shoes, right? They promoted because they felt like I want to lead, I want to help, but did they have a strong mentor? Did they get, like, you may have got tactical training, but I learned really quickly, fire is easy, people are not. I had a huge void of, I'm supervising 50-year-old guys who are laughing at me, right? That have successful businesses, grandkids, and I'm telling them what to do. How do you think that went over?
Yeah. I've been there
Talking
before
about
too.
feeling
That's hard.
completely insecure. So the younger generation, I'll give you this. When we did our peer support program, I asked all of them, I said, how many of you have been through something bad? They raised their hand. I said, how many of you want to help people? They raised their hand. I said, how many of you have had professional training in CISM, stress first aid, peer support? None of them raised their hand. I said, congratulations, you're hired. They said, why? I said, the first 2 I cannot train you for. I can't train you to go through something bad and be empathetic for someone. And I definitely can't train you to care. If I can hire you for character and compassion, I can train you for competence. And everybody thinks that that's impossible. If they have the heart and the desire, I'm not saying they're going to be perfect, but a person with heart that wants to learn is far better than someone who's arrogant and think they've learned everything and they can come in and do anything without any experiential background. So the young people coming in are not the problem.
Right.
We cannot fill the experience vacuum and
Right.
give them fires that we don't have.
Yep.
But we can invest in them. Jacob Johnson talks about mentoring the young. If you want to complain about the young and you're not helping them, then you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need to invest. As I say, this is my ceiling. This should be their floor.
Mm-hmm.
As high as I go, that should be their starting point. I should not make them start over. So these individuals who feel uncomfortable, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad with them feeling uncomfortable. What I'm not good with is them staying there and being at that point of wanting knowledge and not having opportunity to get training, not having mentors.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we need to step up. We always talk about fire departments not sending people to training. I'm telling you, it's a much bigger problem than that. It starts inside, just like in the family. If I'm not being a parent, not being a husband, then my marriage fails and bad things happen with my kid. If I'm not taking care of my crew, my battalion, and reinvesting in them and giving them opportunities and sharing with them resources they may not be aware of because of my background, then I'm failing them, right?
Yep.
You know, like I'll give you a good one. We're doing our train the trainer the last day. They have to teach.
Okay.
2 guys stand up there and I said, all right, you're going to teach him and he's going to be the young officer asking your guidance and you're going to teach him. He said, well, that's funny. I spent 10 years on his truck as my captain. I learned more from him than he. So I'm going to teach him. And it was just hilarious because he was so humble about it. He's like, this is a rare opportunity. I'm going to talk to the guy who taught me.
Yeah.
And they both did great, but it was a really neat thing to see that one had invested in the other and now this one's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we need to reinvest in each other, whether it's our family, whether it's in fire service, and those that don't have the experience, shame on us for not sharing. There shouldn't be a knowledge hoarding problem because I'm worried that you're going to know more than me and be better than me.
Absolutely.
That book I quoted to you, Lead Like Jesus, he talks about 2 types of leaders. This is the type of leader we need to be, a called leader, not a driven leader. Called are mission-minded, succession planning, all about helping others, all about making them better, all about sacrificial servant-type leadership. Driven leaders only want power, money, recognition, don't do succession planning, create toxic environments because they're all about controlling and saying, look how great I am. And they're the first one to drop the hammer on their team when they make a mistake, even if the mistake is made because the leader failed to equip them and train them.
Yep.
Those are the 2 types of leaders, in my opinion. If you want to do a quick size up, you'll find out really quick in 5 minutes what kind of person you're dealing with. If they're a driven person, I'm not saying write them off, but you know really quickly that they're not here to help other people. They're in it for themselves. Yeah. They're not the for them that we hear all the time. I say for him, for them. You know, if they don't have that, it's about me. It's a narcissistic, selfish motivation. And you can find the root of the motivation. But those guys that you were asking about and gals need people like us, whether we're retired or active, to help them, to share with them, and do something that costs you the most. You know what it is?
What you got?
Give them time. Give them your time.
Yeah.
What hurts more? Writing a check or saying, looking at your phone and go, God, I ain't got time to talk to him.
Yeah.
You make 86,400 seconds of every day happen. They go by. You can't save a one. I can save $1. I can't save a second.
Right.
What does it mean when you're busy and you stop and spend time with your wife, your kids, spend time with this person?
Definitely means a lot more than writing a check.
You know, one of the most valuable things I've had for me? A handwritten note, a simple phone call, people showing up when I least expected it.
Yeah.
Not the checks, not the toys, no. Presence. That's what's going to help them. The people that are going around sharing their message in the fire service right now, fire service educators, they're valuable and you need to listen to them. Not all of them have the same message and you need to listen to different ones to get a complete picture. But that's what's missing is we need to give them that platform and we need to make it easier for them to get. You know, my company does in-person training. It does cost money, but we give away free training every single day and help people all around the world. We helped 60 different countries last year.
And this would be a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're not being paid to be here.
No, I did this because you and I have a same value system, and this is a God thing. He worked it out where we're coming through here, and my wife arranged where I could stay here for a night and meet up with y'all.
And it just so happened to work out.
Yeah, well, I call that God appointments.
Yeah.
He had it on his calendar.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Exactly.
But that's what's missing. And we all have to agree to do that for those people and quit being selfish with the gifts you have. You have a gift.
Absolutely.
If you don't use that gift, you know what happens? You become bitter and cynical. that gift needs to be opened and shared, not hoarded and protected.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. A whole lot of it boils down to, what are your motivations? Why are you doing this? Are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing it because Christ is leading you to do this for everyone else?
Yes.
Are you doing this for God's children, or are you doing this for self-preservation, self-advancement, a bigger paycheck, and things like that? Because
Sure.
let's be honest, I think everybody would agree that we don't get into this business
No.
to cut a paycheck. Now you have to have money to pay the bills, and fair is
Absolutely.
fair, and all the things. But yeah, at the root of everything that we do, in my opinion and my perspective, really, you have to kind of step back and take a little bit of a self-evaluation of, why am I doing this really? And is what I'm asking for, or what I'm wanting, or my intentions, are they rooted in the same, in a moral belief system?
Yeah.
Are they rooted in Christ? Are they rooted in faith? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably headed in the right direction, But if the answer is no, then you should
Selfish.
probably reevaluate. Yeah, absolutely. It's probably selfish. And sadly, I have known a lot of people that were kind of like that. Or maybe they just, took a
all
wrong
were.
turn along the way somewhere.
We all were at some point in our life, if we're honest.
Absolutely. Me too.
From being a child, a teenager, to maybe young in certain things, aspects of life, whether it's family or business or fire service. We have all had selfish moments or incorrect motivations, right? Something as simple as, wanting to get promoted. Some of us do it because it's the right reason. Some of us do it for financial. But if it's a financial reason that benefits your family, then that's not an incorrect motivation.
Right.
However, very few jobs require your life. So I think that's what's missing when we talking about what they're driven by. And the fire service needs to have a evaluation, the process of itself when they're hiring people, to understand you're not hiring people. You are swearing people in to provide a service that, if the wrong decision is made, the impact is death, sadness, loss, property loss, all kind of things.
Absolutely.
And
disaster.
And you can't treat that like a job. There are people that do,
Yes.
but I'm promising you that they haven't fully realized the full ownership of the responsibility and how much they're shirking it, and there will be an accountability for that. Every ill word I spoke will be shared with me one day. That scares me, by the way.
I know, me
and
too.
Every
Me
time
too,
I
for me.
did not do what I'm supposed to do, that will be reviewed, right? But for the grace of God that I don't get judged for that. It will be accounted for. But what we need to understand is that these individuals that are coming into this profession need to have the right motivation and heart behind it. And we need to quit trying to hire for all these different reasons, other than this candidate is a good candidate because of their value system, whether they believe the same as you and I. I don't have to require that, but they have to have values. They have to care about people. They have to want to serve.
Yeah.
Because you are a service delivery system. And that could be something as picking grandma up at 3 a.m. for the 5th time that you don't like doing. Right?
Yep.
It's not fire all the time. We know that. But this is a service oriented or servant leadership based model. Everything all the way up to the higher rank and file have to serve. When they get disconnected from that, that's the problem. You get disconnected from serving at home, how well does that work out?
Yeah, that's the foundation.
It is. And I mean, Jesus was a servant leadership. When he washed their feet, he said, remember what I am doing for you, and go and do the same. You don't understand what I'm doing for you now, but you will. Why did he wash their feet?
Yeah.
To model that behavior. If you study the washing of feet, it was always the lowest paid level servant. They paid people to do that.
Yeah, historically.
And nobody did it. So what did he do?
Yeah.
He took upon that role.
Himself.
He did it himself. Nobody, they were like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. He was leading by example.
Beyond example. He was the example.
Yeah.
I can set the right example and still not be good.
Right.
He is the example of, let me show you this, right? So we have to wrap our head around that this profession, whether volunteer, combination, or career, requires you to do things that are not easy.
Yeah.
And they will not be comfortable, and you will not be paid what you deserve for it, and you will be asked to do more than any other profession. There will be sleepless nights. There will be time that costs you things morally, sometimes physically, emotionally, even spiritual costs can be if you're not careful. But the job itself is a service oriented job. And that's why people have given me a hard time on it. I believe it's a calling. You
I do
get,
too.
it is a career that can feed your family, but it also can cost you if you're not careful. I always said the fire service is either one of two things, a spiritual detriment or spiritual opportunity. The difference is me. What do I decide it is?
I like that.
Well, God, Jesus said, the harvest is great, workers are few. So what is it for me? Am I a worker, or I'm going to sit back and look at that and wait on somebody else to harvest that? I'm going to reap what I sow. I need to invest in those people. And if we can put aside our differences, our ego, and the things we talked about a little bit ago, and realize I have to invest, like he was and I were talking about earlier about helping with certain things. If you have knowledge about something or skill set, why aren't you sharing it with somebody?
Yeah.
That's a gift. And we have to do that. And I know I keep stressing that, but I see it over and over again. People with amazing talents and gifts, and they're not doing anything with it for a lot of different reasons. But the fire service
Agreed.
requires you to do that.
Agreed.
So I think if we can wrap our heads back around the original mission of being servants, then maybe we won't raise our head too high.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sometimes returning to your foundation, to your roots, to the reason why you started doing this in the first place is really kind of what allows you to kind of reset your path, you know, and sometimes in the way that, I mean, and I learned that through mistakes, you know what I mean? I mean, I myself personally, I have veered off of that path.
Sure.
And I have made those mistakes
The
personally.
one lamb that run astray, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was my turn. I did it, and it was my decision,
My
and all
turn.
the things, you know, and because we all do, you know, and yeah, and I think retrospectively looking back, that's really what helped me personally return to a healthier mindset, to asking for forgiveness, to trying to reset my path to the right place, was going back to my roots, saying, man, this is not, this isn't me. This is wrong, and I need to correct this. You know.
Yeah,
And
if you can't lay your head down at night over it, you don't do it.
yeah, and sadly, there's a lot of people. I don't know if maybe some folks just get frustrated, and then maybe it's a self-perpetuating cycle, or maybe their intentions were wrong in the first place. But I'll tell you what, one of the best. I believe that this profession is a faith-driven profession. Like
100%.
if you don't have your morals, your ethics, your foundation, and I think family plays into that too. Like, I used to tell the guys when I was a captain on the truck, like, hey, I need you to take care of your family first.
Absolutely.
I need you to be at your kid's ball game. So if you tell me, hey, we're working this day and my kid's got a ball game, is there a way I can go? Then I'm gonna do what I can to get you there,
because that's what's important to them. The reason they work is for family.
So yeah, I think all that kind of rolls into one. And I don't know, maybe culture leads us in the wrong direction sometimes, but
Culture changes too much.
it does.
It's a shared set of values by a large group or small group, and then every so often cultures change because of society and politics and media or whatever. It didn't used to be that way.
Yeah,
But
really didn't.
if culture is your driving factor, you're in trouble. Because remember what I told you earlier, the root word of culture is cult.
Yeah.
There can be good culture and there can be bad culture, right? I can have a really beautiful tree in bad soil, it won't grow. Bad culture, bad environment. Corinthians says that good character, or basically corrupt people, drags down good people. That's Starnes' paraphrase. I'm not going to quote it correctly, but if you're in a bad place, you're not going to bring them up. They're going to bring you down. If there's more of them than you, then they're going to beat you down every day with negativity, cynicism, whatever. And when you said, maybe their motivations were wrong in the first place, I learned this a long time ago. Hurting people hurt people. You've been hurt and you never healed, you'll keep spewing hurt. You'll keep spewing poison. They didn't get that way overnight. When you meet that 20-year guy
Yeah.
who's bitter and cynical,
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot of stuff happen to them, maybe personally and professionally and all together. It's not the cause, like Dean Ollie says, that gets us. It's the combination of all the things. And I think the environment that we're in can cause way more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to realize that when people, society, or whatever, if it's a bad environment, why is it a bad environment? What created that bad environment?
Mm-hmm.
We can change that environment or change our location. How can I change the environment? I can be a positive influence. I can help people. But if I do all that and the environment never changes, then I need to change my location. It might be a station transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people don't like to hear this, but it might be a department change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love what I did. I love it. I love the fire service, but my wife really made me feel better when I retired. I did not want to retire. I did not.
How many years do you have in when you retired?
25 years, 226 days, and 14 hours. Yeah. I needed to work 2 more years. I had a service retirement. I had the time, didn't have the age. Took a 6% early reduction withdrawal. Like, that's a penalty to go. But I was going to die of a stroke or at my wife's hands. As Ruth Bell Graham said, never once considered divorce, but thought about killing him on a regular basis. She's going to kill me or they're going to kill me.
Yeah.
I was very, very frustrated with certain things that I could not change. And I had been banging my head up against the wall. And there were certain things that we had made major headway on, like the peer support side. I'm very thankful that the department got that in place. That's the one thing I feel so good about when I left. Thermal imaging wise, I was a failure to my department. I did not make the changes. I helped people. I darn sure didn't get the program and the departmental change. There are things going on that still, factually wise, are incorrect across America, and I'm trying to change that. But I had to go. I had to leave. You look at ministers; they're supposed to be itinerant. Why? Why are they not supposed to stay at a church for a lifetime?
They need diversity for one.
Well, that and their thinking can get stuck, right?
Right.
And then the same thing. If you look at, we're supposed to have new leaders every 4 years. We should have, we should have constant, refreshing of that leadership. And
yeah, I used to say sometimes you gotta come out of the dark a little bit and mingle with the masses, otherwise you start to believe your own lies.
Well, and if you don't get outside of your circle and learn, you don't. It's groupthink. It's danger in that, right?
It can.
I learned so much more by traveling internationally on ways that firefighters think you could never put fires out. I saw some most amazing things done that they would never do in the U.S. that worked scientifically, worked well. But we have to get past all this and realize that we can grow, we can learn, and we don't have to be toxic. We don't have to be bitter. The organization itself may not be the best organization for you right now. Does that mean you should be a bitter employee? That mean you should become bad? What I realized is my wife told me, what I was trying to say was, my wife said, you're not leaving the fire service. You are leaving your fire department. What does that mean? You said it. We are
still
serving. What's in every person's heart, really? You're driven to do what? To serve.
To serve. Yeah.
Right? Who gave you
especially
that?
in this profession?
God. Who gave you that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take your passion plus the needs of the world, and you can find your calling, and that was given to you by God. And everybody has a different path he has you on, but we're all leading to him if we do it right. So we're all driven to serve. The Hebrew definition of male is to work. Husband means gardener. What does that mean? I'm not a good gardener. That means I'm in trouble.
I could do way better for sure.
The Maltese cross has 8 points representing the 8 Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount. We like to turn that into a secular meaning.
Yeah.
But go back all the way back to the very beginning. You can find
roots in faith.
Roots in faith. But we like to gloss over that.
Yeah.
So the very roots of our tradition are to sacrificially serve. Do people like sacrificial service right now?
No, it doesn't seem like it
no,
very
they
much
don't.
at all.
They want me.
Yeah.
Me.
It's that cult of culture, culture of cult.
It's all about me, my likes, my ways. You got to cater to me. And the country needs that right now. The country needs to unite, and the fire service needs to do that. And if we'll do that, and I'll tell you, if we'll fix our family environment first, we'll fix everything else.
Yes, I completely agree. I think a lot of the suicide increases, the mental health problems that we're having, we need to help in the different ways that we can, but I completely agree with you in that the family unit is not where it once was.
No,
And
it's not
people,
strong.
yeah, it's not as cohesive. It's not as forgiving. It's not as understanding. It's not as,
It's not supportive.
yes, exactly.
Do you know that when they studied behavioral health stuff, that people who had a major incident in their life that was injured, sick, or whatever it was, that the people who had a strong support system got better faster than people who didn't.
I believe it.
People who were prayed for got better.
I believe
Scientists can't wrap their heads around that. You know, they can, justify it all they want scientifically, but a support system means you're stronger. Foundations make buildings stronger. A threefold cord is not easily broken. The faith and your family, it's you, God, your husband, wife, right? That's your threefold cord right there. Some people are single parents right now because of what you said in the divorce rate and all that. We need a strong support system. And I'm going to challenge you people to listen. If you don't have a strong support system in your fire department, brotherhood's not dead. It's just geographically challenged. I have more friends that support me that live outside of the state of North Carolina than I do inside the state. Since I've left the Charlotte Fire Department, I've only had a handful of people call me, but I supposedly meant the world to them, right? Now, I have people that I travel and see once every few months that text me about every couple of days. Now, who's more connected, right? People in Jersey, Louisiana, Texas, California, Germany. I've got a really good friend in Germany, right? And that it's a geographical thing. You can have strong relationships now in this world and stay connected to people who are far away from you. Don't feel bad because you don't have the support within your organization. Maybe you're dealing with toxic leadership. Maybe they don't train enough. You can build your own, what I call board of directors, or I call it my firehouse kitchen table, virtually through people that you meet when you seek out these opportunities. But you got to go seek them out. You got to go to conferences, or you got to go to men's retreats or marriage retreats, and you got to find these mentors, these people, and put them in your life. And you're going to have to do something that we just talked about that the world doesn't want to do. You're going to have to call them. You're going to have to text them. You're going to have to make time to ask them, hey, can you share this with me? Or I'm facing this right now and I don't know what to do. And please stop using social media as your psychotherapist.
Yes.
Because that costs people jobs and marriages. Don't go on Facebook every time you get mad and post it.
And blast it out to the world.
That's what the devil wants you to do. And people are watching your accounts. Your HR department's watching your account. And once it's on the internet, it's forever.
Yeah.
Use that as a tool to meet people that help you, but don't use it as your counselor. Go get counseling. Counselors have a reason why they have to keep your stuff confidential. Facebook doesn't.
Yeah.
Completely
public.
Yeah, find that group. And if you don't have that group, we can help you do that. I know people. Alan Brunacini taught me something I'll never forget. He was the best at this. He was a relationship broker. You know what that is?
Go for it.
He was able to look at you, listen to you. He would always have a pen in his pocket. He would grab a napkin. He would write more important things on a napkin than anybody I ever met.
That's what I heard.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of amazing things been written on a napkin. The founder of TFT drew his original design on a napkin.
On a napkin, yeah.
Alan Brunacini would listen to you, and you'd think he's not. And he was writing stuff down. And when you were done talking, he'd go, here's what I think you should do. You should call this guy and tell him I told him to call you. And tell him that I want you to, he'll find you a place to work, or he'll offer you this. Or he knew so many people that respected him and valued his opinion. If Alan called, they got it done. So if you have a strong relationships with people across the country, across the world, that is more priceless than pearls and than money in the bank. Because I could call you. Dr. Larry Crabb says in his book, The Papa Prayer, the power of petition is based on the depth of relationship. Okay. If I have a strong relationship with someone and I call them and ask for something big, they're more likely to do it, just like in marriage, right? I can call some of these people up and say, hey, I really need you to help this person. Can you give them a call and spend an hour with them talking about your incident, your thing you went through? They're really in a dark place. I don't have to fix their problem. And by the way, I'm not equipped to fix all problems. I just have to know people who do.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved what he taught me when I met him when I was 16 years old and was blessed to know him all the way up to his passing through my father. And people like that are a gem. Because guess what Alan never asked for?
What's that?
Credit, recognition, thanks, none of that. He didn't ask you to go on Facebook and praise him. He didn't.
Yeah.
And you know, most of the places he went, he was not paid.
I believe it.
If he liked you, he didn't pay. If you did go, he wanted his expenses paid.
Mm-hmm.
And the man didn't charge nowhere near what we charge today when he did go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant a lot to me. He said, charge enough to support your habit, but don't be greedy, Andy.
I
You know,
agree with
and
that.
he was the master at relationships, you know, and I think that's powerful. He even had a group, a private meeting called the Baggers, where they would meet. And he created a peer support group in private for high level people.
Mm-hmm.
I got to witness those meetings. I don't know if they still
That
go on.
sounds really interesting.
Yeah. And you can do the same thing. You don't have to be Alan Brunson. You don't have to be, you can take people that have that same need and put them in a room
Mm-hmm.
at a conference or your fire department kitchen table. And you can say, hey, this is what I want to ask you to do. Jim's going through something hard, and I want you to check on him every couple of days. I want you to check on him once a week. Can you have time to, you're a little less busy. Do you have time to meet with him for coffee?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what you do is you put different people around them that form accountability and support. You have have an encourager. You have somebody who will rebuke you. You have somebody who will give you wise counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Have somebody just support you, right? And that gets you through those tough times and helps develop those people. And it's phenomenal. It's priceless. And people need that. They need it because a lot of fire departments don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And we can retake that back. It's not aggressive firefighting that is the problem. Our problem is that we need to develop and regain the sense of camaraderie and compassion and connection within the four walls of a firehouse, not a fire station.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have permission from the fire chief to do that.
Right.
You just have to.
That's up to you.
It's up to you. It's a personal decision to do what the hard thing, to work out, to talk, to share, to invest, and not hide in your cubicle, right? Because you think so-and-so is mean or so-and-so doesn't care or whatever.
Yeah.
Get over yourself and realize it's not about me or you. It's about the people you work with and serve. And the minute you go out that door, it's about the citizen. And then each other you rely on to get you home. And that's the level of trust you have to build. And I think when we retake that, if we can fix that, all this other stuff we argue about, which nozzle, which this, that's nothing. If we have a strong family-based environment, not a culture, but a family-based environment, then all this stuff will be fixed. Like you said in the beginning, we got to fix the family environment. And that's within the four walls of a firehouse, because it is a house. You live there.
Yeah.
You share, if you do a 30-year career, you could spend up to 12 years with these people.
Yeah.
That's more time than you spend with your wife and kids if you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
That's a pretty strong commitment.
That is a huge commitment.
And I think that's where we need to come back to. You know, when we start this conversation of what do these kids need? What advice are they uncomfortable? Sure. I was uncomfortable, you uncomfortable. Well, how can we help them? We start there. And my joke, you'll appreciate this. I got hired in 1998 by Charlotte Fire Department. I became a firefighter in 2010 because that's when I became a captain at Engine 2 B shift.
Okay.
And I worked with some amazing people leading up to that, but Engine 2 B shift changed me.
Okay.
That station was a station everybody wanted to go to. Yeah, they ran calls, but why did everybody want to go there? It was the people.
It was the family.
It was the people.
Yeah.
It was a family environment. And A, B, and C were all awesome. They were all weird in their own way, but everybody loved being at that place. And there's lots of stations like that. They fought to get there, and they didn't leave. They got promoted or retired. That's the only time they came out of there.
Wow.
And that environment made me so much better.
That says a lot for that group of people and what they were doing for each other.
That 7.5 years set the course of my future with those guys, good and bad. Family stuff we learned. I had a guy who was my driver. He was not the best driver, but you know what that man did for our fire station? We had Bible studies at night. He's an ordained minister. Me and another guy, Robbie Harris, got in an argument over King James versus traditional. He challenged me in a good way, and we would sit there, Brian Gilmore and all the guys I worked, we would sit there late at night and have in-depth discussions that you couldn't have anywhere. We were able to do that over some very strong coffee at times we shouldn't be drinking coffee.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the kind of environments that guys and gals need. Whether they believe like you and I do, that's not a requirement. Do we want everybody to come to Christ? Sure. But we need to model that. Saint Francis of Assisi said, go and share the gospel in all things, but if necessary, use words. If they can't see Christ in you and your example, how what kind of faith do we have?
Yeah, you have to make sure that everybody else can see it in you.
See it. You might be the only Bible that they read. You know, and that's why I value times like that. I can look back now and say that was pivotal for me. I loved all the assignments I had, with the exception of one was a little rough. But they all taught me something. And that right there is what I think people should look for, is say, I want to either find that environment or I want to create that environment. If you don't have it, then what can you do to create it? Because if you feel that need right now when we're talking, then you are being called to create it. Quit worrying about somebody else fixing your problem.
Yep. Somebody's got to start. Somebody has to start the cycle.
That's right.
Somebody has to step up and say, hey, look, I know that, you know, that maybe everybody isn't quite ready to step up on their own yet, but I'm going to take that step and I'm going to initiate this. And I think we ought to do X, Y, Z. And, you know, and maybe you meet resistance at first.
You will meet resistance.
Yeah.
Leadership without opposition or adversity is nothing more than a title. You're just looking for a desk job.
I see that a lot too. It seems like in the fire service where, and you know, even myself, I didn't expect to meet adversity in the places sometimes that I did. You know what I mean?
Guaranteed.
Like, I just kind of automatically assumed and thought, I guess, dumb me, that, you know, everybody kind of came from some of those same core values and those same morals and whatnot. And I'll tell you what, it was harder to find than I thought.
It's very hard. And the mistake we make is that we think everybody should love it like we do. And when they don't, we get mad.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we get upset at them. I've had friends who've been at 10 departments in 7 years. I'm like, you've been married 5 times, you need to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's not the ex-wife who's the problem. You're looking for something you can't find because you're failing to create it. You're blaming everybody for a lack of this or lack of that, and you just keep moving. Keep moving. This is not a 5-star restaurant where they cater to you. You have to help create that environment. And here's something that's really difficult. Well, here's something that's really difficult, what you just said a little bit ago, is this not going to happen overnight. You may be the person who starts it, and someone else helps it grow, and someone else helps develop it, where Paul talks about one sows, God provides the growth, another reaps, right? How many leaders have you read about that never saw the benefits of their work in their lifetime?
I'm going to say quite a few that I've read about.
Because there's a reason. They spent a lifetime working on this, and then after they're gone, people valued them.
Yeah.
Look at all the things we have now, from civil rights, from Dr. Martin Luther King to some of the great leaders in the fire service to all that. These people were either killed for it, had high rates of divorce and depression, suffered immensely. So think about fire service leaders who fought for programs that we have now. You know, something as simple as a pass device. How many people look how long it took to get that in place? Rapid intervention to, you know, things like SCBAs. Just keep going back. Those didn't just show up. People you can read. You can find articles where we fought against motorized fire engines. We fought against those.
Yeah,
seriously. You know, what is Alan Brunacini quote again? 2 things firefighters hate: changing the way things are.
Yep.
Don't change it, but I don't like it. We don't want to, you know, be uncomfortable. But where does growth occur?
Yeah.
And that
being uncomfortable.
You know, I started doing cold therapy a couple of years ago because of pain.
Okay.
It's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you know what happens when I'm done?
You feel better.
I don't hurt.
Yeah.
I quit taking Advil. For 2 years I hadn't taken an Advil. So it's uncomfortable, but there's a positive result. When you work out, it's uncomfortable. Having difficult discussions is uncomfortable. Pushing against the norm or the status quo is uncomfortable. You're going to be labeled, and if you stick your head out of a foxhole, you're going to get shot at. You will, and you'll have people say bad things about you, but are you willing to endure it for the greater good?
Yeah.
You better know that.
That's the key. Yeah, going into it, it's not going to be all rainbows and unicorns. You're gonna take a few rounds.
If I read to you some of the things that have been written to me over the years, it would make your stomach hurt.
I believe you.
Of hurtful people who had false beliefs of what I was trying to do, and some of them came after me, like literally came after me. And I learned that adversity is the scalpel that God uses to sculpt you into his masterpiece. Nobody likes to be cut on, do they?
No.
If you take Michelangelo looks at a stone and he sees a beautiful masterpiece in it. God talks about, you know, that the silver starts off as dross, but what makes it into that refined silver?
Mm-hmm.
The fire.
Mm-hmm.
If silver had feelings, would it tell you, I don't like being put in a fire?
Probably so.
Yeah. It's the furnace of adversity.
Yeah.
Do we like going through hard things?
No.
No. If I hadn't have fallen through a floor in 2015, I wouldn't have a company right now
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't going to do it.
Everything happens for a reason.
God put me on my back where I had no choice. I went from running my third marathon to my wife carrying me to the bathroom for 8 weeks.
Mm.
You want a dose of humility? Your wife was giving you a sponge bath because you can't walk. Mm-hmm. You watch your atrophy, your muscle atrophy, and you can't help around the house. You can't help your daughter. She can sit with you,
mm-hmm.
and then you can't bend your leg. You can't. It's a very humbling experience when you're hurt and taken out of the game. Mm-hmm. And a lot of firefighters experience that.
Yeah,
sadly. But without that experience, I wouldn't have been here. Everything that I have now is because I think I was on the same road that my dad was. My dad had a great mission, mm-hmm. but there were certain levels he wouldn't go. And I wasn't going to do it either. But when I was shown that I'm taking a risk and I could injure or hurt my family because of my own personal pride, and he said, wham, now sit down for a minute. Minute was 7 months. Let's think about this. Mm-hmm. You ever been humbled like that?
Yeah, well, maybe not like that, but yeah, other times, yeah.
What would you rather be? Humble or Humboldt?
Yeah.
I like Humboldt.
I would rather be humble.
My dad taught me that. He said, being humbled ain't no fun.
Yeah.
I always say, can I stand next to somebody wise and listen to them now? Because I didn't back then. Mm-hmm. We had that level of arrogance. They don't know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. These people have PhDs in life. We need to listen to them. And I think without those hardships, you ever heard the song, Thank God for the Broken Road?
Mm-hmm. I have. It's a good song.
Me and my wife would not be at the level we're at if she hadn't been through what she'd been through in her prior marriage and what I'd been through in relationships. Mm-hmm. We both joke and say we appreciate each other so much more because we've been through so much bad stuff that we know that we were made to be together.
Yeah. God bless the broken road.
Well, without that, I wouldn't have appreciated her because there's all these relationships that didn't give me what I was seeking until I was broken and prayed, God, would you send me the woman that you want me to have? Mm-hmm. And that's what I truly believe, that when I was at my most broken and I'd been doing everything wrong, and I said, send me the one that you want me to have. Mm-hmm. And when I had my first date with her, my dad said, what do you think? I said, she's dangerous. He said, what do you mean? Well, I like her and I think she could hurt me. What do you mean she could hurt me? I just don't believe she's too good to be true. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, he just laughed and smiled. And I think he knew then, but God does that. And I think how do I say this? I think we're too hard-headed and stubborn to listen to what needs to be shared with us and actually follow it, that we literally have to be broken before we listen. And that's a painful thing to admit. But I look at my own life and realize, whether it was my professional career, my spiritual life, I didn't listen to wise counsel. People warned me. Wham. Now I'm like, I have that same hurt now when I look in these young people's eyes and I go, I don't want this to happen to you. Yeah. Like I talked about in the beginning, I have a moral responsibility when I look at a young firefighter that firefighter should make it to retirement and have a family to go home to. My motto is I work in the dark. Mm-hmm. I do thermal imaging training and I help people from here to here, the heart to the head. And my goal is to save lives on the fire ground and lives at home. And you said it a minute ago, the suicide rate is out of control. And I can tell you personally that I always start every class with my testimonies about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. And 2 classes I didn't talk about suicide, and both of those classes 2 people took their own lives.
Oh my goodness, really?
So if you don't think God has a purpose for you to share something, and the times you don't share it, what's the cost of that? And that haunts me to this day. Yeah. We all have something we're meant to do, but you can do the following. You can listen to God and serve, or you can be like me. You can be broken, crushed, and qualified. And in my opinion, you can't be that third one until you've been the first 2. Watchman Nee talks about the breaking of the outward man that God does to qualify those he wants to serve. He ruthlessly perfects those he wants to elect. ruthlessly.
Yeah.
Does that sound very loving?
No, but I'll tell you what, that's what some people have to go through.
It's what's needed.
I went through something similar too. And yeah, I mean, and I guess maybe that's something that it, sometimes we just got to go through it, and the way that you explain it, the way that you explained it.
Mm.
Sometimes that broken road, it leads you to a place where you're so thankful for what it is that you have
Mm-hmm.
and the blessings in your life and the good things that are happening, that when you look back, and at the time when those things occurred, you were miserable,
Yeah.
you were hurting,
Nobody could
you were
explain it to you.
yeah. And like if somebody came, like you say, if somebody came and said, hey, look, this is going to be worth it one day, and you're like, you're crazy, there's no way.
No way. You could tell me what I'm going through right now is a Romans 8:28. I had this conversation with somebody recently. I said, in the middle of your pain, do you want scripture to be quoted to you? He goes, I know the scripture.
Mm.
He says, that's not what I need to hear right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to hear that God's going to use this for my good. I don't need to hear that he's going to never leave me or forsake me. I don't need to hear that, that someone's in a better place. I need comfort and compassion.
Mm.
When Lazarus was dead and he showed up, what did Jesus do? He wept.
Mm-hmm.
Did he preach a sermon? No, he wept. And then he called him out of the grave. He used his power to glorify God, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't call people out of the grave, but boy, we can share and be present. There's a book out, I can't hardly find anymore, called The Ministry of Presence. My dad says life's about showing up. What do you do as a firefighter? You show up. What should you do as a husband and a father?
You gotta
show up.
Mm.
You know what? A friend of mine told me, he said, never chased a dollar, but I chased my son. You look through his photo album, Boy Scouts, everything, he's there. He was there. He was present. That means a lot. I struggle with that.
So much.
Because I've gone a lot.
Yeah, just being present means so much.
And that's what's missing in all the stuff is being present, not your words of affirmation. I call it cliche words of comfort. We say things that often don't provide a whole lot of comfort, but just being present with them and crying with them or putting your arm around them. When I was in peer support with my department, one of the things that was most powerful to me was knowing each team member's testimony. So when something happened, these people were handpicked by God, in my opinion. When we had someone who lost a child, guess who went and talked to them? A member who had lost a child. They have the just sheer courage and vulnerability to put their arm around and say, I know how you feel, and really mean it. Do you want to be a member of that club?
No, you really don't.
A friend of mine, Mike Guerin, says, we're members of a club nobody wants to be members of.
Yeah.
But those members are uniquely and divinely qualified to help people in a way that you cannot learn in a school.
Yeah.
You can go through leadership training. Does that make you a leader?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Jerry Strike has a book on dealing with difficult people, and he talks about his first year of fire chief, that all the things that happened to him, none of his leadership training prepared him for what he was going to face. None of it. When you're reading the book of Acts and how the disciples spoke, they were untrained men, but because of the power of God, they amazed those around them with the way they spoke. And they had all went through things as well, and they'd been near him, right?
Yeah.
Now, they weren't in a school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what's missing is having that power of presence, having that connection to Christ, and staying rooted in that. It's where I struggle, is getting so busy. Did I read today? Did I pray today? Where's my focus? Is it on him, or is it trying to make a point here? We've got to stay connected to him and to each other. And that brokenness, whether people want to hear this or not, if you haven't been broken, I pray for you, because you will be one day. And you need to really think about what the purpose of brokenness is. Brokenness is not to crush you. It is not to destroy you. It is not to say that God is hateful, because you hear this all the time. Why would a good God allow bad things to happen to good people? Brokenness brings you closer to him and to what's most important, because our mindset and our focus gets so clouded with distractions and things that don't really matter, that we believe matters, whether it's money, getting promoted, whatever it is, that sometimes we literally have to be slapped on our back just to reset us. I mean, a computer has a Control-Alt-Delete button.
Yeah. real quick, real easy on a
Yeah,
computer.
real quick, start over, right? And it's no fun to go through it. Like you said, when you're going through it, no one can tell you that that's going to lead to you're good at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But you can look back. The beauty of perspective is you can look back like I can now and say, without that, I would not have been here.
Mm-hmm.
Without those bad experiences, I would not have met my wife. And without that, I wouldn't have done this.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Without me going through the hard times I went through with my own anxiety and depression, I wouldn't have gotten into peer support. I wouldn't have been able to do the things I did within my own department and meet the people that are right now serving and doing amazing things within my department still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me.
Yeah.
You know, that's that opportunity I told you. It's a detriment or opportunity. That's that opportunity. And you problems are opportunities in disguise, and nobody likes that statement. It's not mine. I've heard it a bazillion times. When I go through a problem, I try to take a deep breath. I'm just be brutally honest with you. I don't always look at it this way. And I say, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because it sucks. But in the end, I'm going to come out with a different perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to hopefully use that to help someone. Because if you go through hell and you don't use that to help somebody,
Mm-hmm.
then the devil won.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an experience that you have to go through in order to come out the other end a stronger, more capable person.
And if you share that later, people will have hope because of you.
Mm-hmm.
And say, you went through what?
Yeah.
And you did what? And you're still here?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have gave up. Or they're in the middle of that and they hear you. They're like, he's already been through what I've been through.
And it's inspirational.
Yeah. Because they get hope from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's powerful. It's better than any motivational speech I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's just somebody who has went through just terrible circumstances and come out on the other side through it all.
Mm-hmm.
And what they went through, and you suddenly want to take your troubles back and say, no, I'm good. I'll keep my problems.
Yeah.
And you look at what they went through and how they, it's almost mind boggling that people think you're supposed to go through life and not suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a part of life. This is a hard world that we live in, and those experiences that we go through helps us to identify with other people and be able to make other people's circumstances and situations
That's
a little
right
bit
there.
easier to swallow sometimes.
What you just said there. It helps us to be able to identify with other people.
Mm-hmm.
2 Corinthians, we comfort other people with the comfort we've been comforted with.
Mm-hmm.
How can you give people comfort that you've never received?
Yeah.
Why did you receive comfort in the first place? Because you were hurting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the definition of compassion is? To suffer with. If you hear the words, they're a compassionate person, what does it mean about their heart?
Yeah, they must have been compassionate to a degree that they sat with you through hard times and went through it themselves.
My pastor years ago said something that I'll never forget. He said, give me a heart big enough to hurt with them and hold their pain, but not own their pain.
Mm-hmm.
A heart big enough to hurt with them. Think about that. You're asking, God comes in your heart gets bigger. To hurt with someone.
It's very empathetic.
That's beyond empathetic.
Yeah.
You're asking to hurt with them like it's your own pain.
Yeah.
What kind of person do you have to be? We always look at the sacrificial service of firefighters who die in the line of duty. The bravest heroes I know are the ones that can sit here and share their testimony about stuff that is really not comfortable, not attractive on social media, and that people are not brave enough to talk about.
Yeah.
Because yes, that's acts of bravery. Going into a burning building and sharing, I don't want to dispute that and diminish that. But we need more people who are vulnerable and open enough to go, yeah, I did this. I almost lost my marriage, or I was an alcoholic, or, I was addicted to pornography, or whatever it was. And this is how I came out on the other side. Or I still struggle. How's that? You think because you're a Christian and you're a leader that you got it all figured out?
Yeah, no. Not at all.
No.
I'm going to make mistakes probably till the day I die.
I need a sign around my neck that says, pardon the mess, under construction.
Yeah.
That's that Philippians 1:6 about him, creating a good work in you and being faithful to complete it. Notice it says being faithful to complete it. Do you think that completion comes on this side?
No, I think it comes on the other.
So what is the purpose of our life then?
Learning.
Training.
Training.
This is the training grounds for heaven, brother.
Yep.
And people don't want to hear that. Firefighters like that definition. They like training. The good ones do, right? You're in training for something bigger. And when you graduate and get there, he's going to have a specific job for you, a purpose, a room, a task, something to do. And by the way, it says there'll be food there too, which I'm all about, right? You know,
Especially around the firehouse.
so is there hope outside of the dark circumstances of the world and social media and the negativity around us and your bad position in the fire service? Yeah. Should you actually put a smile on your face when nobody else can? Yeah, I think you could.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, why aren't you smiling? Well, if you got time, I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
I use the Dave Ramsey line all the time. I'm better than I deserve. And people don't like that, but I am.
Mm-hmm.
I deserve a lot less and far worse.
I hear you.
And I'm thankful that he doesn't give me what I deserve.
Amen.
You know,
absolutely.
so
Because I know I've worked for it over the years.
yeah, if I take up all the bad and I take all the good and I had to add it up, the scales are going to be way off, not in my favor. You know, because in the end, we're selfish. So I think we need to understand why we're here. And then when we go through hard things, whether it's in the fire service or family, there is a purpose beyond our sight.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's more to it. It goes much deeper than what I think I or we or anybody could ever imagine.
If you're listening right now and you're in a very, very dark place and you think there is no hope left, I would encourage you to remember that the one who had it all came down and gave his life and died on a cross for people that spat on him, that betrayed him. And then the 12 people he spent 3 years with ran away, except for 2, ran away, left him.
After all that.
Left. He came to his own received him not. So if you feel alone, there's one that won't leave you. And if the only way you're going to get to know him is through that brokenness, to cry out and to admit that you need him. You know, the ABCs: admit, believe, confess. You got to admit that you need him, because everybody wants him as Savior, but few want him as Lord. And that's difficult for us because we don't like, I mean, you think about what we do.
We don't like to be vulnerable.
We want to serve and help. We don't want to need help as firefighters, right?
Yeah. We don't call 911. We are 911.
Yeah, well, that's the God complex problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a different pride problem.
I
Right?
know. That's what you hear anyways.
So you're in that dark. You don't have to be there alone. You know, and we think no one cares. They do. There are people praying for you right now that you don't even know about, that you'll see on one day. But you've got to get outside of yourself long enough to admit that you need him.
Yeah.
And he'll show that to you. But you've got to cry out to him, because if you don't, he's a gentleman. He's not going to force his way into your life.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, there has to be an invitation.
Yeah. And people don't believe that, but they're not willing to try it. What do you got to lose?
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Cry out to God. Call out. Get around good people. See if your circumstances may not change, but your attitude about your circumstances do. And the people around you provide support and hope. And those are the things that we're missing, you know, giving you peace amidst the storm, not getting rid of the storm. And I think that's where we all think, you know, prosperity gospel type thing, that we're just going to make lots of money and never get sick, and marriage is going to be perfect, and jobs. That's not life.
No, it's not. And that's not the way that it was designed in the first place, I don't think.
No.
We're supposed to go through what we go through.
Fair is where you ride rides and get cotton candy, is what I tell my daughter. Life is not fair, and neither will be the fire department, neither will be marriage, neither will be raising children. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And you got to be dedicated enough to not give up. Because right now, the devil wants you to give up. He does. Because if he can destroy your support for your family, think about that. That's a biblical picture of God. Christ and the church is marriage. You have a marriage and a family. If he can destroy that, he can take glory away from him. He's already lost a battle, but he's trying to stop you. He's trying to stop you from doing what you're called to do, and take that glory away from God just for that moment, that month, that year. If he can take one away,
however he can distract you.
And that's, you know, read the book Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. It's a very convicting book where it talks about 2 demons having a conversation on how they can distract a Christian. And it'll blow your mind of what his fictional interpretation of what demons and bad stuff happens and why. Distractions.
Just to distract you.
Just to distract you from your purpose.
Yeah.
Don't get away from your purpose. If you are encountering hardship, adversity, opposition, congratulations, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
If the road is easy, you should be concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should be facing adversity if you're headed in the right direction. That means that you're fighting against the status quo. You're working against the devil and working towards God's plan.
Because people are doing bad stuff, don't like it when you shine the light on it.
Yeah.
And you're shining a light by simply believing and doing what's right.
Yeah. When you're fulfilling your plan, God's plan in your life, then you'll know you're on the right path when it seems like the world is trying to veer you off of that path. Sometimes.
Why do you think he says you got to put on the armor of God?
Mm-hmm.
Are you putting on armor to go play at the playground?
No.
You're putting on your PPE to go in a fire because it needs to protect you. You better put on the armor of God because you're going to get shot at.
Yeah.
Calls it the fiery arrows of the devil, the accuser. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And by the way, he's got friends.
Yeah.
I'll give you this, and this was from my mailman. I called him the Apostle Paul of the U.S. Postal Service. Named David Brewer, amazing guy, retired. I miss him every day. He said, I told him one day, I said, David, the devil has come after my family hard this month. He said, good. It was long before Jocko would say good. I said, what do you mean good? He says, Andy, you think the devil comes after people who are already on his own team?
Yeah.
He doesn't come after the complacent.
No, that's a good point.
And I went,
Never thought about it that way.
you didn't make me feel better, David, but thank you. But he had the knack in 60 seconds or 2 minutes to be able to just share a bit of wisdom that I believe the Holy Spirit gave him because he was just good at that. And, and he was called to do that. And he would deliver more than the mail. And I think that the few years he delivered our mail, it was very powerful I think God put him in that time of
That's cool.
our life that when he was doing mission work and he was going through stuff and we would talk and just know you're going to do the right thing and you're going to experience hardship.
Yeah.
So, but
Absolutely.
you're not alone.
Right. Absolutely. And that's where those support groups come into play where it helps quite a bit if you're going through some things like that to find like-minded individuals and spend time with people that are, doing some of the same work that you are.
You ever heard the lone ember sermon?
No.
You take embers in a fire and you pull one away.
Okay.
It grows cold and dark.
All right.
You take that same ember that looks like it's extinguished and you push it back close to those embers. What happens to it?
Turns red, starts to glow again.
Why? Because
of shared heat.
It's close to the energy, right? So if where two or more are gathered, he says, I am in their midst. He says, do not forsake the acts of fellowshipping and gathering together. It talks so much about the power of being together, not being alone. And in the fire service, do you take a 2.5 up to the 3rd story by yourself? Should you carry the burdens of a 30-year career alone either?
No, absolutely not.
So that's what's missing is that when I said that family environment, the connection with people, and then with the right people, and those people may change throughout your life, by the way. Those people can be, you'll laugh at this, I call it my diversified portfolio. If you have a portfolio of investments, if one fails, you got more over here, you're good. You got to have a diversified portfolio of personal investments and people that really are invested in you. You've got your mentors, your encouragers. One of my mentors called it the Paul, Barnabas, Timothy model. Okay. Paul was your mentor. Barnabas was the encourager, and Timothy was someone that you were training. So while I'm being mentored, I'm actually helping someone else. Because I heard this from one of my guys. He said, we're all, from the first day rookie to the senior guy or gal, we all have something to share. So have your Paul, have your Barnabas, have your Timothy. Paul is your mentor, someone who's mature and been through hell on earth and willing to listen and share. And Barnabas is someone who encourages you and keeps you, don't let you quit. And then Timothy is someone you invest in. That's the future. That's your replacement. Whether we like it or not, you're going to be replaced.
Yeah.
You better work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of correlates with the idea from, fire service instruction and stuff. They say it in the book. In order to gain mastery level understanding, you have to see one, say one, do one, and teach one.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the full cycle.
Yeah.
And
doesn't
that
say
kind
teach
of rings
1,000.
true in what you're saying there.
Doesn't teach 5,000. Doesn't say at this conference, there's going to be 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
One person. Remember
Mm-hmm.
that leadership model? You, one-on-one, team, organizational.
Yep.
Start with one. First is me, right? Frank Viscuso says, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anyone else, basically.
Integrity.
Yeah, you got to lead
It's
yourself
key.
first. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the most difficult person that we all have to fight with and lead.
Yep.
That's our greatest battle, is leading ourselves.
Yep. The hardest part's in the beginning.
So we got to lead ourselves, and then we can start with that one that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the one guy who shared the gospel with Billy Graham. One guy. He's not even talked about.
Mm-hmm.
What did Billy Graham do?
Amazing things.
Think about anyone
time.
like that.
Yeah.
One person invested in that person at one moment, and what did that do?
Changes the world.
Yeah, he changed the world.
Yeah.
Jesus invested in 12.
Mm-hmm.
One walked away, but those remaining and the one they replaced him with, what did they do?
They changed the world.
They changed the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't micromanage them, but he said he'd always be with them, right?
Right.
So that's the thing, is we've got to invest in others to change the world, for our family's sake, for the fire service sake, for our country's sake. We got to quit trying to attack everyone because we don't like each other, either politically, personally,
Or
professionally.
we don't agree for some reason. Yeah.
That's
our opinions are different.
Yeah, opinions are validated. They're valid that you have an opinion because you're a person, but that doesn't mean if I have a different opinion from you that I'm hateful, or because we have a different belief. I have friends who are atheists, who are Jewish, who are Muslim, and they're all friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't agree on our belief, but we do agree on treating each other right.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to these people regularly.
Yeah.
Like this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't yell at each other.
Yeah.
Not like what you see on the news. Where
I
people,
know. Everybody's arguing all the time.
All the time. And he who has the loudest voice wins. No. That's not the way it should be. And I think my fear right now is that we're going to have a major tragedy before we come back together.
Oh, I know.
That's what happened with 9/11.
Yeah.
That's when firefighters were appreciated, police were appreciated. Then we, changed all that during COVID. We turned on each other. And, God talks about, a house can't stand if you're basically trying to destroy it from within, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they talk about calling him a devil, said he's a devil, so he's a demon, so he can call out demons. Who's going to destroy their own house from within? We wouldn't do that, right? We're doing that right now to each other, whether it's fire department, faith, country, politics. We got to quit doing that and start realizing that every person, according to our Constitution and according to God, is valuable. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that one person is right and 329 million other people are wrong. Why don't we see past that and try to agree to disagree, but still love one another? Because right now, that's what's needed. Not hatred, not discord.
No, we got plenty of that already.
The back of the coin says e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. Where do these concepts come from? Yeah.
Christianity.
Yeah.
Biblical.
It's it's the foundation of everything, whether it's fire service, our country, and we got to get back to that.
Yes, I completely agree.
And if we can do that, maybe we can see past all these little small differences and quit arguing about everything and distracting one another on social media, where we're not even focusing on our family and the fire service.
Yeah. Right? That's one of the big reasons why I started doing this with Josh and Robert at Bella Media was I would have never thought to myself that I would be sitting in this seat, with the podcast and all this stuff. It just wasn't something that I would have gambled on at all.
Yeah.
And, here we are. And the purpose behind that was kind of because there was so much other stuff that was out there that was like, man, this is not good for the world. Like,
you felt a burden, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I
What'd
really
you do
kind
with
of
that
did.
Burden?
I had to act on it. I had a duty to act.
There it is.
Yeah. And that was, there was no way I could, I would have felt awful for the rest of my life if I didn't do something,
Yeah, and I think that's what's missing is so many people want to point out what's wrong, but they don't want to do anything to try to fix it. They want to scream from the cheap seats.
Yeah.
Get involved. Get in the game.
Yeah.
I heard one of my friend's authors, she quotes all the time, Brene Brown, Said, if you're not in the arena and getting your butt kicked every day, I don't want to hear from you about my work and your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not in that fight
Yeah.
and you're going to tell me what to do
Mm-hmm.
and you're not getting your butt kicked and you're going to come in and offer me advice,
Yeah.
no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in there right next to me, dirty and bruised and broken,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what that feels like, I'm going to listen to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have that burden, like you said, because you saw that need and you acted on it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. How many people God's called out of that to do stuff?
Yeah,
Whether
absolutely.
something tragic, something heartfelt.
Mm-hmm.
He puts that on your heart, man.
Yeah. Follow the breadcrumbs, right?
It's beyond Hansel and Gretel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think for me, I have to say it again, God, but don't hit me with the hammer. You know, because I'm hard headed and I won't get it.
Yeah,
it'll
me
take
too.
it'll take 5 phone calls, 10 sermons, and a couple of books and a podcast or two, and I'll say, you know, all he said the same thing. Maybe I should do what he says here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I'm seeking guidance and people say he doesn't speak to you audibly, I'm like, well, I heard this in the song right after I prayed. My wife said this. She didn't know what I prayed. I heard this when I was talking to you. I'm like, what you trying to get at?
Yeah, sometimes it is audible. Sometimes it is.
My wife and I, when we got married, she told me she never wanted to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And after we'd been married a little while, I wasn't behaving correctly.
Okay.
And I went on a retreat called Walk to Emmaus, and it
Okay.
shows you what relationship with Christ is supposed to be. I had religion. I didn't have relationship.
Mm-hmm.
From that point on, I started learning about relationship. I got involved in prison ministry and some other things that were
we talked about that over the phone a while back.
very beneficial to me. I got over my fear of public speaking in there, learned about being non-judgmental to people,
Okay.
had the most amazing spiritual revival in my own personal life. And my wife went through the Walk to Emmaus thing. It really helped us a lot. But I started having this, like you said, burden that I wanted to be a father. And I was like, this is marital counseling material. She doesn't want to have kids. She had had a rough marriage before. And I didn't know the reason she didn't want kids is because she didn't trust me. Because she didn't trust men, period. I prayed about it for over a year. I didn't say a word to anyone. I didn't talk to my father. I didn't talk to anybody except God. We were in a house one day, and my girls like to change subjects randomly. I don't know if yours do that when your kids or wife talking to you, but
all the time.
Yeah, random subject change. We call it squirrel, left turn. She goes, hey, we need to talk. I'm 38 years old. I'm going to be 40 in 2 years. If we're going to have a family, we need to talk about it. And I was like, excuse me? Put my hand on her head. I said, are you sick? She goes, no. I said, have you been reading my journals? She's like, no. Have I been talking in my sleep? I'm like, I'm going through all the logical reasons why she should know about this. And she said, no, it's been on my heart and I've seen what God has done with you. And I finally believe that I can trust you with this gift. And
wow, that's huge, man.
She was 40 when Emma was born. 8 months pregnant. Sarah turned 40. Sarah was AMA, advanced maternal age, had all the risk factors. Emma was supposed to have Down syndrome, heart defect, all this stuff. Emma was born perfectly healthy.
Wow.
We argued about Emma's name. We agreed the middle name will be after one side or the other, depending on boy or girl. So the middle name was Caroline after Sarah's mom. Okay. And Sarah was adamant that she wanted Emma to be her first name. And I was just stuck, like, it's just an old name. I don't, it's not sticking with me. And we were arguing about it, debating, I should say, not arguing, but we're sitting in church one day and they had 2 banners hanging up there. And one said, on the road to Emmaus, and the other one said, our Lord Emmanuel. And I looked, EMMAUS, and that's what that's the trip that got us turned around. I looked over and said, Emmanuel. It said EMMANUEL. And I said, you win. She said, what? I said, you win. Her name is Emma. She's like, why? I said, don't worry about it. Her name's Emma. So fast forward, Emma's born. Perfectly healthy. Everything's fine. Emma's about a little less than 2 years old, and Sarah's dad passes away. He was the longest living, slow progressing MS patient on record. He was in his mid 70s. He had MS for almost 40 years. We were at the funeral home planning his funeral, and I see his birth certificate. His mom died giving birth to him. Everybody knew her as Virginia Brown. That was her maiden name. And I saw her full name, Emma Virginia Brown.
Wow.
Now, you can believe that God doesn't answer prayers or he doesn't speak audibly,
Yeah.
but he'll smack you in the face with
Uh-huh.
irrefutable evidence that he
Yeah.
is listening. And then he will tell you, I have never left you. I have answered your prayers. And you
Uh-huh.
might want to say thank you,
Yeah.
because
That's amazing.
I've said so many examples of that in my life and people don't believe it. I'm like, you do not believe it, you won't.
Oh.
You're calling it coincidence. That's just God working anonymously. You're not
Yeah.
giving him credit for the things that is happening all around you each and every day that you just brush off.
Yeah.
As coincidence. It couldn't happen that way.
There's no way.
You have your eyes closed.
That's just, I mean, what are the chances of that?
Emma was between 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was explaining to her how Jesus was born.
Mm-hmm.
Because she didn't understand Jesus was born from a woman.
Okay.
She's like, you mean Jesus was in his mama's belly like I was in your belly?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, yes. And like when I came out, they handed me to daddy. I never told her that.
Yeah.
Sarah had a C-section.
Mm-hmm.
And when Emma was being born, Emma was stuck. And her vitals were crashing because the cord was wrapped around her head. So they had to do a C-section.
Uh-huh.
She said, when I came out, I saw Jesus, then I saw daddy. 2 years old. Now, you can believe what you want, 2-year-old. But I've got example after example from the time we started this journey to now that are what I call basically God winks. Things him telling you, hey,
absolutely.
I'm here and I'm real.
Uh-huh.
I'm real. From moments that's happened in my career that I shouldn't have lived through to points defining my marriage and my faith and my friendships to me being here with you today. That's all part of that road. And the problem is I've been trying to yank that steering wheel out of his hand the whole time.
Yep.
So those of you who may not believe, I would challenge you, just what have you got to lose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of the time people look at it as like, oh, it's just, it's just probability or chance or this or that. But it all depends on your perspective. Like you said earlier, is like, what do you have to lose?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to lose to at least give God a chance? Give Christ a chance.
We live our whole life like Christ is real, like we know he is, and we die and he's not there. What did we lose?
Yeah,
nothing. We live our whole life and don't believe in him, and then die and wake up and he is there. What did you lose? You lost everything, because now there is no chance at that point. He's given you every single chance, every reason to believe, to have hope. And there are more people mad at God right now than anybody else.
I know.
And the reason we're mad at God is we should be mad at ourselves. We don't want to take ownership of our own responsibility and decisions and the things that happen around us and the terrible things that are happening that are done by evil people or people who do bad things. God, it's not God's intention for people to be harmed or children to die or bad things to happen in front of you.
That's not God doing that.
No.
That's people doing that to ourselves.
We have free will. That's the part people don't want to wrap their head around, is we have the free will to do good or to do bad. And then there are things that I cannot explain to you on this side of heaven, from disease to children dying to things that I don't have that kind of wisdom. And I'm not going to try to explain it as if I'm God, but I am going to tell you that if I blame God for every single thing, I am no different than the victim mentality of this world, that every time something bad happens, I blame someone else. I have no ownership, no responsibility, no accountability in this world, and I am basically a slave to this world. And I need to realize that the greatest freedom I could ever receive is when I forgive myself and ask for him for his forgiveness. And then I start to forgive all these people around me that hurt me and the world around me. Because when you do that, you have the key to the cell that you're in, and you unlock it when you forgive, and you get to walk away without that burden, without that pain, without that bitterness, without that hatred in your heart from all the things that's been done to you by who knows what and where. And he gives you that freedom if you want it. It's going to take time, but we need to actually forgive people. And I'm telling you, that's the hardest thing that we'll be challenged with, is especially as firefighters, we see some terrible things. And to forgive people who have done horrible things, it's not in our nature.
Yeah.
But we ourselves have done horrible things. We may not have done as bad as such and such, but my favorite book on that is, Yes, I've sinned, Lord, but I have several good excuses. Because we look at the little stuff like it's not a big deal. You lied on your taxes, you know, and then it leads to this, this, and this, and then you go all the way into adultery and all kind of other things. But people don't look at that. We got to forgive people, and that's hard to do. I like what my friend said. I had to pray every day that such and such didn't get hit by a bus because I wanted him to get hit by a bus. My nature is I wanted to get even, right?
Yeah.
But that's hard. I mean, we want justice, but you know, vengeance is the Lord's, not mine, and I got to remember that. I want it to be mine, but another Alan Brunicelli quote is, "When you're angry and it feels good, don't do it. Don't do it, because that's you. That's your selfish nature wanting to get even, and that's hard." But I can tell you that there have been,
I like that. I didn't know he said that. That's funny.
Yeah, I've had a lot of
True.
wonderful moments with wonderful people, and if you listen to them long after they're gone, he's been gone for a while, they'll live on. Their words, their legacy,
Their work, and their
the people they impacted.
Yep.
They'll live on. They don't die.
No.
They move on. And you need to celebrate that relationship and echo that and share that with people so you can give them hope. And then you need to also share that when we talk about if someone's done a terrible thing to you, share how you forgave them. Share
how you got through it.
How you were set
how you
free
came
from
to
it.
terms with that. Yeah.
If you can mention their name and your carotid artery don't start pulsating, you're doing good. Because I'm telling you, that's the hardest thing for people right now is to forgive. And when somebody told me, he said, "You ever read the Lord's Prayer?" I said, "Yeah, I say it all the time." I said, "Why don't you read that part about forgiveness? Forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us."
Who trespass
What does that mean? That means that he's going to forgive you how you forgive others. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Forgive lest you be forgiven, right? That
Pretty
was,
much the hardcore version, yeah. So if I don't forgive people, he's going to hold me to that. So he forgave me. I'm the servant who was forgiven the 10,000 talents and went out and wrung my other servant's neck because he owed me money and wouldn't forgive him. We've been forgiven much. We need to forgive much. And that's what's needs to be shared with people today is you've been hurt, you've been betrayed, you've had bad marriages, bad relationships, you know, bad toxic leadership. If you want to get over things and move on in your life and your health, you have to forgive. You have to forgive.
You'll never be able to leave it behind.
No.
And do what you need to do the different things in life, the way that, and follow the path that God puts in front of you. If you're hanging on to those angers, those frustrations, and it's an anchor.
It's like this coffee. It's like pouring poison in it and me drinking it and looking at you and go, "I hope you die." And the whole time I keep drinking, I keep getting sicker, and you're fine. Why am I getting sicker? Because I'm ingesting bitterness and hatred.
The same thing
Over and every day I'm thinking about these people that are not thinking about me. I'm literally destroying my health. Whether you believe it or not, you can hurt yourself physically by holding on to bitterness and unforgiveness.
Sure. I completely agree with that.
Blood pressure can go high. You can have anxiety, anger outburst. It can contribute to your post-traumatic stress disorder that most firefighters end up finding out about later. You know, you have to find a way to let it go. If you can't do it through Christ, I recommend you see a good counselor, but Christ is the ultimate way.
Yeah.
Because once you figure out what he did for you, it's a lot easier to let go for what everybody else did.
That's the key. You know, absolutely.
Because then I look at what put him there and I realize, I did that. I'm a part of that problem. And then those scars on him are from me. And that, what'd he say? He died for you. Will you live for him? And that's the hard part, is realizing what did that cost him to do that? You know, firefighters should understand that when firefighters die in a building for someone to live or rescue someone, that is the ultimate sacrifice.
We have an understanding of sacrifice. Yeah,
we should. But yet, boy, we are the world's worst at holding unforgiveness.
I know.
You've seen some shift wars in your time. You know, they didn't pay the cable bill. I hate their guts. They rearranged some furniture. I hate their guts. You know, he relieves me late. Whatever excuse is this week, we are great at sacrificing for the world, But we wouldn't help the guy on A shift if his life depended on it because we don't like him for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you know, it kindness is free,
Yeah.
but it takes work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like Proverbs says, it's like throwing heaping coals on your enemy's forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you being nice to someone who's been mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Absolutely.
But we got to learn, if we were going to embrace this calling we started talking about from the very beginning, that means everything. That means setting the right example, morally, physically, emotionally, even if you don't believe the same way we do. There is a spiritual component to all of everything. You have faith, whether you admit it or not, in something. So we have to embrace that, and we have to serve people like what we committed to do. And that includes the people inside your station, your firehouse, and your home.
Yeah. That's foundation. Absolutely.
A house will collapse if it doesn't have a firm foundation.
Yeah.
Built on the rock or built on sand? Which one is it?
Yeah. It's got to be on the rock. It has to be a firm foundation. And yeah. And that family unit is the root of a lot of our problems, I think, in the world, like we discussed earlier.
If we get back to that, then build everything else off of it. And I think then, like you said, they need to go to the ball game. You understand the value of family. You're going to do everything you can for them because you have that same foundation. You don't care about family, you're not going to let them go to their ball game.
All right.
You're not going to do things for them when their kid needs something. You know, that's beyond leadership when you take that extra step and check on them about their kid or their family or their marriage or whatever they're going through. That's what we need to do.
Yep.
We want you all listening to be great firefighters, but I want you to be great individuals first, but great husbands, great wives, great brothers, sisters. Those are God-given titles. The title of firefighter can be taken from you.
Right.
And will be when you retire.
Yeah.
It's not going to say great firefighter on your tombstone. You can have it chiseled there if you want. I'm going to have bugles on one side, the trumpets, and say, these were toilet plungers. Because I cleaned up more messes than I fought fire.
Oh,
That's
man,
I'm gonna make somebody laugh when they look at mine because I don't want to come to my tombstone and cry.
Yeah.
I want to remember the good stuff. You know, so
absolutely.
that's where we need to be is servants and happy the fact that we got to serve and not be asking for anything more but the opportunity to do so.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming in today. I know you're a busy dude, and
we all are.
I know you're headed through, but man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you swinging in. Caught you going from point A to point B, and man, if you're ever headed through the area again, and I'll try to keep in contact with you so we can share some different things. And
I got 2 more trips
in
for
contact.
Texas coming, so we can probably connect.
All right, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to have you back.
Okay.
It's very like-minded. It seems
Might bring somebody with me on the next one.
Okay. All right.
We can have a 3-fold cord there.
Hey, sounds good.
I think I have an idea.
All right.
Yeah,
all
just
right.
a little light bulb went off.
Cool deal, man.
All right.
I'm all about it.
Okay.
I'm all about it. This is the platform, and it's the opportunity to let our voice and God's voice be heard.
Good.
I hope
So too. If they're listening,
Yeah.
if you took the time to listen, we appreciate it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, anyways, I'll let you get on with your travels and whatnot. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. God bless.
Command, Engine 10. First line attack, making entry.